Do you have a hole in your screen like I did? Well, stick around where I show you step by step how to replace the screen. It's an easy DIY project anyone can do. If that interests you, stick around. Welcome back to Weekend Warrior Workshop DIY, where we get things done. Today we're going to be fixing a screen that has a hole in it. Now this is a simple project that any beginner DIY person can fix, and I'm going to show you step by step how easy it is. You can save some money, make sure to keep all the bugs out in your house. I know that a lot of times you want to open those windows when you have that nice fresh air outside, and if you have a big tear in your screen and not want mosquitoes or other bugs in, then you're probably not going to want to do that. So this is an easy, simple, cheap fix that you could do yourself, and we're just going to go through those basic steps here. So first thing you're going to need to pick up, you can pick this up at any of your hardware store, big box store, and that's just some screen material. They sell different kinds. This is a fiberglass mesh. They sell metal, aluminum. They also sell a thicker sunshade. So if you live in place and you want to, on the south side of your windows, your southern exposure, and you want to put a sunshade on, you can replace it. This is a good time to do that. Either way, the steps are going to be the same, and you're also going to need some spline. You could reuse what's in there, but you're going to need some kind of cutting tool. I recommend a razor blade, and then you're going to need the spline rolling tool. What this does is it helps you roll in that spline in the spline groove around the screen frame itself. It's an easy fix. This has two different types of rollers on it. There's a concave side where the metal caves in, and it allows that groove to pick up the spline. And then there's a convex side of it, and that's where you can put this in before you put the spline in, to give that screen that memory in the groove that it needs to go. So you would roll with the convex side first, and then put the spline in with the concave side, and we'll review that coming up. So stick around, we're going to cover that right now. So just find a flat space to work on, buy these simple tools, invest in the screen material, and you can do it. What we're going to do now is we're going to remove this spline material. You want to start here in the corner, and you can use your razor blade to get it started, or a small screwdriver. If you're going to use a razor blade, make sure you have safety glasses on in case that razor tip pops off on you. It's a lot safer if you use a screwdriver, but you can do it with this tool. So I'll go through that here. So you're just going to simply take your screwdriver, kind of dig in that corner and get it started. Once you do that, then it just easily pulls out with your hand. So you can get each one started and go from there. Trying to hold the camera at the same time of doing this. Normally it goes quicker. And so as you can see, this rubber, you would probably be okay to reuse. So if you wanted to save some money, but new spline material is just a few bucks for a big bag of 25 feet. So it's worth putting in the spline, in my opinion. But if funds are running tight and you just need to replace the screen, save this spline. You could reuse it, so just gently pull it out. So I'm going to show you the process here of pulling out the spline. Alright, so once you have one of the corners started with the spline material, you just hold the frame down with your hand. It just simply pulls out. You just make your way around the frame. So I'll go ahead and do that. Alright, so this spline material came out in one piece, so they started in one corner and went all the way around. Some people do it where they cut each side, so you might have to rip out the two horizontals and two verticals on yours, but I know that a lot of people do it with one around, and that's how we're going to end up doing it. So either way, just make sure you take all the spline material out. Now that we've done that, the screen material just simply pops out, and you're going to pull that out, starting in one of the corners, and then just pull it out of the frame. so this frame comes with a special crossbar in the center. It's a little bit on the bigger side, and let me give you a close-up here. It comes with this little insert that sticks in the center of that crossbar and overlaps into the spline groove. And so you want to make sure that if you have one of these, like this one fell out, that you put it back in, because you want that underneath on the groove. Make sure there's a mark so I know where it was. If yours didn't have a mark, you want to measure this side and that side to make sure they're the same distance. Otherwise, when you put the screen in, it's going to look, this bar is going to look crooked, and you don't want that. And so if you do have one of these because you have a bigger window, make sure that's straight across by measuring. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lay that new screen material over, cut us a piece that's going to end up being on here, and we'll go from there. Alright, so when cutting this, you might have an extra. When you buy this material, make sure that you get it large enough for your screen. What you don't want to do is have two small pieces with a gap, because that will let bugs in for sure. So, and it will not be near as strong. So you want to make sure you buy screen material that's wide enough to cover your frame. So once I've laid this out, I have a little, about 2 inches of overlap on that side. I want to leave at least an inch or two of overlap on this side. And I'm just going to cut this material with my razor blade. And that'll give me my rough cut measurement from that screening material. So I'll set that aside for another screen. And then I'll go ahead and slide it over. And I will cut the waste off on this side a little bit. You don't have to do this, it just makes it a little easier working with this. I know those of you are cringing. I'm getting a blade near my table, so I didn't touch it, I promise. Alright, so now that I have that extra set aside, what we want to do is line this up. So now what we need to do is we're going to set our spline in the screening material here. So I'm going to pull this out. Now this spline, it's basically like a rubber hose with these little grooves on the side, and those grooves kind of help grip the side of the material. So this is going to end up going in this spline channel, and it pushes the screen material down, and it holds it in there tight. So what you want to do is we're going to start on one side. It really doesn't matter which side you start on. I prefer to do the long side first, just because I want to get a nice straight run, and then I'll be able to put the screen material to make sure it stays square. So, alright, so once you lay out the material over the screen material, get your spline in one hand, and then you're going to have the screen here. And if you look along the grid pattern, it can line up along there. That way your grid lines aren't at an angle. You want to try to make it flat, unless you like that. But you know, for me, that would drive me a little bit nuts, and I don't need any help in that category. So what you do is you take your spline tool with the convex side, which is the one that rolls outwards in the framing material, and just give it have it tuck in there. You want to do that so that it'll start the process. Then you set your spline in the corner. It doesn't matter which corner you start in, and you set the concave side, which means that the roller caves in, and you're going to set that on the spline and kind of roll it in place there. Now when you do that, be careful, because this concave roller, there ends up being sharp lines on the edge of the roller, and I'll give you a close-up right here. Now when you do that, the edge of that could slice the screen material here, and so as you're rolling, you want to stay away from the inside, because if you accidentally slice that screen material, you could have a cut in your screen, and you want to stay away from that side. I've accidentally done that before, and then you have to retake it out, shift it over, and you can redo it. So just want to save you the hard ship of that. So if you caution and go towards the outside of the frame, if you accidentally cut that, it's okay, because we're going to end up cutting on that line anyways. So you're just going to take your spline material and roll it in the screen as you go down. And you don't want to create any waves where the screen overlaps, so make sure you keep an eye on that. And just take it a little bit at a time. And we're just going to do this all the way around the frame. Now I've come to this point where the crossbar, that metal rolls into the spline groove. Make sure that that is still in there, because this spline is going to help hold that. You can go over it a few times. What you don't want is that to shift on you, because again, that bar will then be crooked. Alright, so now we're to one of the corners. So what you want to do is you want to take the material and give it a bend in the corner, because you want that to slide into the corner. So let me give you a close-up here. So what you want to do is make sure that when you come around the corner, that the corner piece slides in the groove as well. You don't want it out. So make sure that that makes itself nice and deep in the corner, and then you'll end up going all the way around. Alright, so I'm at the point now. There's some screens at the bottom have these black tabs that stick out, just like the crossbar over there. You want to make sure that those tabs are there. These ones happen to be torn off, and so you could either leave them there or remove them. It still has a little bit there, so you could grab it, but if you want to remove those, if they're broken, and replace them, they do sell those at the hardware store too. So I'm just going to continue all the way around the frame. Alright, so for me, it's easier for me to work on this side and this side because of how my bench is laid out. So I'm going to go ahead and be gentle here, and I'm going to flip this around so that I can work on the same two sides again. And just keep moving all the way around. Now, because I want to make sure that this crossbar didn't shift on me, I'm going to choose a spot to measure from at 27 3/4 there, and I have 27 1/4 here. And so this obviously shifted on me, so what I want to do is bring that to 27 1/4 here. Double check it. There we go. So doing that simple step, it's going to make sure that it looks nice when we're done. You don't want to go through this effort and have it crooked. Alright, so I'm just going to continue my way around. Now this started to bunch up on me, so I'm going to pull it back out a little bit. Make sure that it stays flat. Now one issue here is it's starting to be a little loose on me. So if you take your finger and just pull it down, so as you slide this spline in, it'll be a nice tight screen all the way down. So that's a helpful hint to make it look more like a pro screen. You want it to be nice and tight, not have this huge waves in it. So pull it a little tight as you're finishing up the last long horizontal. Now before I go on, since that was a little loose, I do want to double check that. 27 1/4 still. 27 1/4, good. So it didn't move on me, so I can continue down the road. Now this is an easy project anyone can take on. It might take you a little longer the first time you do it, but anyone can do this. And it's going to save you quite a bit of money, and you don't want bugs in your house. So this will help. Alright, again, I'm at the other corner. So I'm going to make sure that it's nice and tight before moving on. I'm going to finish up my last side here. Again, I'm going to pull the material taut as I push the spline down into the groove. Okay. Now once you made it all the way around, give me 1 second. It is hot in this shop today. Okay, now that I've made it all the way around, I want to just double check that the spline is flat all the way around on all the grooves. So I'm just going to slowly roll it back and forth, not putting too much pressure, but you would feel the spline have a hump in it like it does here, but that's because of the metal cross piece that builds up the material. So that's normal, but you do want to put a little extra pressure, try to get that down as much as possible, but it still is going to have a little bit of a hump there. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Happy with all of this along here. Happy with that corner. Okay, so I noticed a little hump right here, so I just put a little pressure and it pushed right down. So I'm going to flip this again and finish my last two sides. So now that you've used the spline tool all the way around, this is a tool you can pick up at one of your big box stores for under 10 bucks. It's probably closer to $6. But this is something that you can use. It's worth the investment. You could get away with doing maybe with the screwdriver if you're careful all the way around. But again, if you accidentally tear that screening material anywhere around the inside of that frame, then it's going to ruin your job, and you don't want to do that. So the last thing to do is just trim off the excess. So right here, I have the spline that ran a little past, so I'm going to cut that with my razor blade. And I'm going to take my tool and just make sure that that gets down in there. And we're done. So a simple trick is just set your razor blade along the outside of that spline and just gently apply some pressure. This material cuts very easily, and so you make sure you don't want to cut the spline. But by doing this, gives you a nice clean look. Take your time, just use that spline as a guide and go all the way around. So I'm going to repeat that on all four sides. And this, again, it's worth taking your time. You don't want to accidentally cut on the inside of the spline, because then it's going to slit the screen and then bugs will be able to get in. So make sure, take your time as you're going around to trim the screen material. Now, if that did happen to you, if your blade accidentally slipped and, what do I do? Well, if you go ahead and take the spline material out again, you should be able to shift the same screen over just a little bit where the slit would be covered up, and then start over. So it is salvageable as long as you only did it to one side. It is something that you can save. And I speak from personal experience here, so don't think that I walk in perfection. The reason why I don't mind taking on challenges is you learn from your mistakes. That's an important thing in life, is don't be afraid to try something because you're afraid to fail. I've failed on many projects in my life, but I've learned from each one of them, and it's made me better. It's given me the confidence to take on more challenging tasks. So if you're just starting out and this is your first step of a DIY, don't give up. Keep pushing through. Just because if you made a mistake, it's not the end of it. Learn from it. Sometimes learning is a price, right? You might have ruined both sides of the material and you have to start over from scratch. That's okay. You're still going to be way better off than if you paid someone to do this. So learn from that. It's definitely an easy DIY that you can take on. And I just want to encourage you in that, because some people are afraid of messing up. They're afraid of making mistakes. They're afraid of failing in life. But any great person goes through life and they've made mistakes. So don't be afraid to make a mistake. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you want to see other videos like this, hit the bell notification. It'll notify you on your phone when I post a new video. Well, another successful project off our list here. Thank you for joining me in the workshop today as we fix this screen. This is a project you can do. This channel is here to help you, to encourage you, and to inspire you to do those DIY projects. So if this is your first time doing a DIY project, this is a great one to start with. So if you have a hole in your screen, go out, buy the materials. You can do this. You could build from it, and then you'll be able to come back on this channel and take on different challenges. So thank you for joining me in the workshop today. You have a great day.